Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 22nd meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. First up is to review and approve the agenda. Is there a motion? Hugo, second. Bob, all in favor? Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes from our May 8th meeting. Can I have a motion? Phil, second. Hugo, all in favor? One abstention. Julie? Okay. Next up is comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Is there anyone with public comment tonight? Seeing none, lots of other friendly faces. We'll move on. Thank you. Right on to reports and recognition. Tonight we have our New Canaan High School guidance presentation, and to lead us off will be Cynthia Rivera, the guidance department chair, with Lindsay Reel and Erica Shadler.
Great. And as they come to the mic and get prepared, just briefly some context. As you may recall, during the budget process, especially with the town council, there were several questions about our high school guidance program and a little bit of uncertainty. So from there, we decided that it'd be a good opportunity for the counselors from the high school to come and to share some of the program and to give an update on how things are going. We also thought that this would be a good time of the year to do it instead of, say, a month ago, because now our seniors have, for the most part, committed to where they'll be going next year, so we can work with, instead of working a year before, we're working with our actual senior class here, which I think is exciting, and thank you for doing that.
Yes.
It also means many late nights in the last week or two to crunch all those data. So thank you for doing that. And
I'm completely done with that, but we have something for you.
Good. We'll take what we can get, and we're grateful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as Dr. Lutzy just said, yes, we are here to present an overview of how we prepare students for life after high school and what steps we take over their 4 years with us to help them make good choices for themselves and provide opportunities to achieve their goals. We'll also present the recent trends in admissions for New Canaan students so you could understand what has become an ever more competitive and complex process for our students. We will look at data from this year's senior class, compare it with previous years, and look at the changes that have occurred post-pandemic. Our department is made up of 8 counselors. I'd like to introduce them. You heard Lori Keene, Lindsay Ryle, Erica Shadler, and then over there we have Ann Vernon, Nick Willett, Sarah Drexel, and Dan Farina. They follow all students 9 through 12. They get their students in grade 9, carry them all the way through. Also housed in our counseling suite is our College and Career Center coordinator, Sue Carroll. And within its walls, Sue hosts as many as 150 college reps each year who visit with our seniors in the fall. They are often the first to read their applications when applications go out, so it's a very good time for kids to connect with admissions people. We host visitors from the military academies as well as technical schools, summer and gap year programs. Sue also conducts interview workshops, manages a job board for students, and offers tours for new families coming to town. Among a myriad of other responsibilities, she also maintains our website, Facebook, and Twitter accounts, keeping not only the counselors but the larger community informed about pertinent topics for adolescent development, programs of interest, as well as the latest in college admissions trends and discussions. Although it's not our focus tonight, the NCHS Counseling Office provides not only college and career advice, we also offer academic guidance, social, emotional, developmental support to all students. Our programs and services are aligned with the school's mission of preparing students to meet the challenges of living in an increasingly global and diverse society. We guide students toward independent thinking and decision-making as they learn about themselves through the ups and downs of adolescence. We firmly believe that students must be able to recognize and reflect on their own strengths and interests as well as their blind spots to create a clear plan to achieve their future goals. Each of the programs we offer is designed to support one or more of these goals. We also partner with parents as their students move through high school. keeping them connected and informed of what we're providing and how best to support their children. This year alone, counselors have met over 5,000 times with students and families, and we've spoken at 18 parent programs, many in partnership with the PFA. And to briefly mention, we also follow the guidelines and practices of our professional organization in the state, and this is the latest of what goals we should be focused on. So tonight we will begin with Lindsay, then Erica, who will give you a brief overview of the programs we offer to all students in grades 9 through 12 that lead them to their post-high school lives. Then we'll look at and discuss the trends we're seeing in the last few years and offer our thoughts on how our kids are doing. Great.
All right. Hello, everyone. All right. So the goal with our freshman students is to support them through their transition to high school as they navigate the increase in responsibility in this new environment. Counselors work with students to develop self-awareness, accountability, all while they're adjusting to this newfound independence here at NCHS. So ninth grade is a year of transitions, and we begin our work with students on their first day of school when we meet with them for freshman orientation. Our primary objective for these students is to support them as they're in a new academic setting. They're building a strong foundation for their high school careers here. In the fall, each student visits with their counselor for the freshman appointment, and that's a one-on-one meeting where we get better acquainted with our students, we address any early academic concerns or strengths, we set goals for high school, and we develop a tentative four-year academic plan there. So here on this slide, you'll see an example of the template that we use with our freshmen. This is during the four-year plan conversation. And counselors and students talk through graduation requirements, academic areas of interest, and elective offerings that are available over their 4 years. In addition to the individual freshman appointments, counselors meet with ninth graders in groups where we introduce them to Naviance. Naviance is a college and career readiness program that helps students align their strengths and interests with post-secondary goals, and you'll hear some more on that later. In these small groups, students are led through a learning styles inventory. This is an individualized assessment that each student takes, and it helps them to understand their best methods of learning and studying. And the timing of this lesson comes in conveniently right before their first experience with midterm exams. Throughout the year, counselors check in and monitor every student's ongoing academic progress, and if needed, will facilitate any necessary supports to enhance their academic and personal success. In the second semester each year, we meet with all of our students individually to advise them through course selection and review again those academic goals that they've set and go over their thoughts about the future. And now on to sophomore year, where the goal is for students to continue identifying their strengths and cultivating their interests while they become more engaged in thinking about and reflecting on their post-secondary options. By 10th grade, the majority of our students have gained familiarity with the academic, social, and personal expectations here at NCHS. Students will sit for a PSAT in October of their sophomore year, which gives them an introduction to the standardized tests that they will take in high school. We also have a parent program that year that outlines the landscape of standardized tests and how students and families can prepare for any future assessments. Counselors meet with sophomores in the winter when we get back, where we get back on Naviance, and we utilize the career exploration tools. The career interest profiler that students complete is a research-based assessment using Holland's personality theory, which is designed to align students' interests with potential careers. Each student is matched with a 3-letter Holland code made up of their 3 dominant personality types, and from that code, they're matched with different potential career pathways. In our second meeting with sophomores, they now have this knowledge of those potential career matches and relevant fields of study, and it's then that we work through an initial college search with them. We connect the results of the career assessment and the college search to things that students can be doing now. So as sophomores, the ways that they can plan for their upperclassmen years at NCHS. Say a student is interested in a career in journalism. They might want to add the journalism elective to their course selection, start writing for the Courant, the school newspaper, or the Spectator Journal. If a student has an interest in business, they may want to request the business principles elective or start working towards getting into one of our economics courses. On an as-needed ongoing basis, we work with sophomores to discuss their progress, encouraging them to take on appropriate challenges and seek help as needed. Together, we look at life beyond high school, focusing on strengths and interests and finding the right fit for every individual. Again, towards the end of the year, counselors meet with every student to adjust their 4-year plans as needed and continue to talk about emerging areas of interest as well as extracurricular involvement as we look ahead to junior year, which now Erica Shadler will cover junior and senior years.
Hello, everyone. So in junior year, excuse me, we're focusing most of our work and much of our work with students around post-high school planning. So at this point, we're really helping students to connect their academics, their personal interests, and their future career goals to college and post-secondary planning. In October, all juniors are going to be invited to sit for the in-school PSAT. And then once those scores are released, counselors meet with their junior class to explain how to access their scores, how to use those PSAT results to inform their future test prep. And then in the spring, all juniors are again invited to sit for the SAT. And then beginning in the second semester, counselors meet with all of our students and families for their junior appointments. During that appointment, we'll discuss and expand upon those individual plans and goals. So for students who are applying to 4-year colleges, counselors are reviewing everything from application types, deadlines and processes, to discussing letters of recommendation with them and talking about their summer plans leading into senior year. And additionally, we spend time during that junior appointment ensuring that students are really comfortable navigating Naviance. There's a whole host of college resources available for students in Naviance, and it really is going to be their primary tool during junior year, where they're conducting college searches, learning more about colleges and universities through those schools' Naviance profiles, and reviewing admissions data that's specific to New Canaan High School. So here you have a screenshot of the Naviance homepage. And then right from this homepage, students can run and access advanced college searches. They can search for a college or university of their choice. And then when the time comes, they can either add to or refine their college list. And here we have an example of a scattergram, which is really just one of the tools that's housed in Naviance for students to use in both their junior and senior year. So here you're looking at the scattergram for American University, and there's a ton of information housed on that scattergram, but really quickly, green check marks, those are accepted students. The blue circles are regular decision students. Red X's are, of course, denied students. And this is data from 2019 through 2023. And in their junior year, Naviance will actually plot students on that graph based on their academic weighted GPA and their current test scores. And this type of information allows students to really quickly gauge their chances for admission and whether any given school is a target, a reach, or a likely for them. And ultimately, it's important, and we remind students this during their junior appointment, that they're realistic and that they're ending up with a college list that has an appropriate balance of target, reach, and likely schools, all of which they would be happy to attend. So for that reason, one of our main goals during that junior appointment is to help students identify what types of schools might be a good fit for them. So we're talking about everything from academic and campus culture, and really helping students to reflect on their high school experience and consider the things that are going to make their future campus hopefully feel like a home for them. And additionally, we'll be encouraging conversations with families, or we'll be encouraging families to have conversations about tuition and how they're going to eventually fund college. We will also be sure to present all the resources that we have available to help families fund college. And we also are extra store to remind our families about financial aid night, which we host every single year and is open to families grade 9 through 12. Then, moving into our senior year, counselors are really focused on individual planning and working with students on a one-on-one basis to help them refine, pursue, and then ultimately realize their post-secondary plans and goals. So within the first 2 weeks of school, counselors are visiting all of the senior English classes to make sure that students are comfortable with all of the various components of the college application process. We share our proposed timeline and important deadlines with students and invite them to schedule their senior appointments. And it's important to note that while tonight and this conversation is largely focused on four-year colleges, we are also having conversations with our students that may be exploring a different path at that time. Like Cindy said, we do partner with our area schools to provide gap year and trade fairs. This year, we hosted an information session all about UK schools, and we'll work with students around military and technical programs as well. And during that senior appointment, counselors are reviewing students' individual plans and answering any questions that they have that are specific to their process. So we'll do things like review that final college list to ensure that it is well balanced. We'll also walk students through the different procedures for requesting their transcripts, requesting letters of recommendation, and ultimately getting those applications ready to click submit. And then throughout the year, we're also meeting with our students as often as they'll have us to help them review their applications. We'll offer feedback and edits on their personal or supplemental essays, and we'll help them monitor the status of their applications once they are submitted. And a really important step in the application process, and something that we're reminding seniors about really all throughout the fall, but especially during those senior appointments, are the college visits. So we will remind students that anytime they've added a college to their colleges I'm thinking about list in Naviance, they'll get an email reminder letting them know when that college or university is visiting New Canaan High School. And like Cindy said, this year we had over 130, but closer to 150. 137 to be exact, admissions representatives visiting the high school. And these visits really are a fantastic opportunity for our students to meet with reps from their top choice schools and universities and to learn more about what those universities have to offer. And again, those representatives who visit New Canaan are often the first readers of our students' applications. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Cindy.
Okay, now we'll get on to the college trends of what we're seeing this year and in the last couple of years. What we are seeing is mainly trends to larger schools as well as more apps to the same schools, making those schools more competitive. So you can see up here, in 2012, the top 10 schools are listed here, but the most, there was maybe 30 to 40 applications to each school. And in 2018, 40 to 50 applications to those same schools. And then this year, you saw 60 to 70 applications to many schools, which made those schools that much more competitive for our students. Now, this is a national trend. Nationally, Common App has reported a 21% increase in applications this year over the year 2019-20, which was the last time prior to the pandemic that they considered that comparable admissions year prior to the pandemic. So we've seen this as kind of an issue for us, that kids are all applying to those same schools. And we're really questioning why that may be true. And these are some of our thoughts. Students often want to go out of state for the most part and see a different part of the world. They'll all say anywhere but Connecticut. And so for some, then what they're doing is looking at public, out-of-state public and private schools. The public schools being significantly cheaper at $50K per year versus the private schools at upwards of $85,000 a year at this point. You know how that goes, right, Dr. Letzi? At the larger schools, there are more choices of major, particularly for students who are undecided. There's also, it may just be a social thing. There's an appeal to going to the big rah-rah schools, and they see themselves at the big games. Many of our students think they'll be business majors going in, particularly their parents are often in the business fields. They'll look at perhaps some very fine business schools within these larger schools that make it appropriate that they are applying to those schools. Finally, and most often, students use word of mouth and reputation to decide where they're going to apply. And I think this all leads into it. Up here now is a slide of sampling of some of our more sought after colleges. You can see here that, say, for example, Boston College had 36,535 applications this year with a 15% accept rate for a class of 2,300. A lot of people are getting denied there. New Canaan, we had 39 applications, 5 were admitted. So we're similar in terms of the accept rate overall for Boston College. Tulane, 30,000 applications for a 13% accept rate, and we had 22 applications, 5 admitted, 23% accept rate. University of Virginia, 56,000 applications, which we found out was very similar to Harvard. It had exactly the same, with a 16% accept rate. New Canaan had 50 applications there, 9 admitted, same accept rate, 16%. And then NYU, we had to put the big one in there, 120,000 applications, 8% accept rate to admit a class of 5,700. We had 21 apps, 4 admit, 19% accept rate. So that's where we say we're doing okay, we're doing well. Also, institutional goals are usually to increase numbers of applicants and decrease acceptance rates, which increases their selectivity rating. So it goes on the colleges too. They want to deny more kids. They want their selectivity rates on the college rankings to rise. The highest acceptance rate for the Ivy League this year was 6%. Most were well under 5%. For us, we see that although class size has been relatively stable there, and there has been a marked increase in early applications, and in particular, early decision. And to this point, many colleges are taking a large part of their classes in those early rounds, so it's often seen as a better idea for students to consider early applications. From the class of 2023, we can see 82% of the class will be attending one of their top 3 college choices. 27% reported that they had athletic, music, or fine arts talents that helped them get into college. 57% reported sending scores. So on this screen, the majority of schools are still offering score optional policies to students. So during the pandemic, since we couldn't even hold SATs, the colleges could no longer rely on them as scores to give to students because students couldn't take them. And so many schools have now put a pilot in place for the next 3 or 4 years. How is this impacting them, Fred, for their classes, and looking at that? So at this point, they're still offering score optional policies. We've seen fewer students this year sending their scores, but we do encourage students to prepare for an SAT or ACT and make the decision later as to whether they're going to send them. For our more competitive schools, they do hint that a strong, better than average score is another tool they can use in determining eligibility for admissions. So we always encourage kids that it's worth a try. So the challenges that we're facing. We're trying to encourage students and families to broaden their search, as we talked about. Embrace those hidden gems that our community doesn't usually apply to. For colleges, they express concern that it's more and more difficult to differentiate between students. At the most competitive schools, most students have A averages with multiple AP courses. Add in score optional policies, which have taken away a key tool they use to discern between students. It's resulted in an explosion of applications because without scores, those A averages are positive evidence for students to be considered eligible. And now with AI and Chat GPT impacting essays and recommendations, moving forward, we're going to have another tool that's going to be in question. We're having a lot of conversations with colleges right now about that. Colleges are also given a list of institutional objectives from their boards to meet, which includes increasing diversity, encouraging students from underserved populations to apply, increasing their selectivity by denying more students, and making more classes well-balanced. And of primary importance is managing the health of our students in this process. So how do we counter these challenges? First of all, we use data. We are unique to many counseling departments in that we work very closely as a team and utilize each other's experiences to help in our own work with students. We not only advise students about colleges to consider based on their GPA and test scores, we also review all students in what we call blind admissions. Similar to what our colleagues do in private schools, every fall counselors sit together, review where students are applying, and assure that students have a balanced list of schools based on previous data. Our goal is to assure that each student be admitted to at least 2 schools on their list. If we don't think that is the case, we will collectively offer suggestions based on the student's interests and goals. Then in the spring, we once again come together and do an admissions review, which we're in the process of right now. This is where we review the decisions of colleges and make notes of changes in admissions from previous years or unusual decisions that we would like to better understand. For example, up here we have Fairfield University, where we can see they admitted some students with lower GPAs than others who were denied. That would be a question for us if the student's counselor can identify particular hooks or reasons that the student may have been prioritized. This process informs our work for the following year, where we may reach out to admissions reps to discuss our questions and learn more about their admissions priorities. This will also help us to structure our travel for the next year and identify the college reps we may want to have a more robust conversation with when they visit us on campus. We also note new trends to follow up on, where students are applying en masse and where once popular schools may be losing steam. So maintaining our presence is one of the key things that we think really is important to, one, to increase our own professional knowledge, but also assure that colleges know us. And that happens through our presence on college campuses and in our discussions with representatives from colleges. So we attend the national and regional college admissions conferences, which gives us a chance to hear about national trends and be part of conversations, develop relationships, and such. We're invited to sit on advisory boards more and more, where what happens over 2 to 3 years, we're asked to advise schools on how to increase or improve their admissions practices. This also provides us insight into their institutional needs and allows them to hear our point of view. And here are some of the colleges that we've sat on advisory boards. In Ohio Wesleyan, for example, Ohio Wesleyan, I was part of that advisory, and they were asking how to attract more people to their campus. And one of the things we noted was that their dorm space was totally inadequate for freshmen, that they're coming from their private little bedroom to some pretty unattractive rooms. And they did do a whole initiative to make 3 or 4 new dorms and refurbish every dorm they had. So it's a meaningful partnership in many ways, and it's been great for us to be friends with them. We're a member of a reverse advisory with some of our DIRG schools, where we meet with reps to discuss what schools like ours can do to improve admissions to their universities and how to meet their needs. It's been a wonderful experience as we can openly talk about what they experience, and we do the same with them. And then in the next year, we will be returning to live admissions panels for students and families. These have been valuable to our families, but they also give us the opportunity to speak with reps on key issues. That said, even last year's panel over Zoom was very successful as we did a mock admissions committee so parents and students could hear the perspective of college reps as they reviewed sample applicants and discussed the strengths and weaknesses of each. It was eye-opening to many to see through an admissions lens what goes on behind the scenes with submitted applications. We've talked about hosting college reps. So last year we targeted 50 of those colleges that we wanted to speak with or visit on tour based on the data from our admissions review last year. As we said, we maintain a Twitter presence. Sue is very good about that. And then finally, counselor travel. We've been, after a couple of years, beginning to go back this year, which has been great, to get out to see schools and get a sense of a college from a student's perspective. We've even traveled over to England and seen some of those schools. We've seen a real increase in the number of students interested in going overseas. And finally, we also would like to say, where are our alums and where are they now? And this is just a smattering of where some of our kids have gone. We have students working in academia. As you can see, every kind of college, all kinds of colleges represented, and kids going on to some really interesting positions. In media and communications, very popular with our students because we have such a great journalism and TV program here. We do a good job there. We can see everything from filmmakers, actors, screenwriters, producers, sports reporters coming from everywhere. In the STEM fields, we've seen remarkable progress with kids going on to very significant careers. And we're very proud of what's happening there. And then finally, in athletics, that too, we've done well in, and we could be very proud of all of that. So we didn't even begin to talk about business and law. I know there's a lot of kids there, but we didn't go there because we had enough. So as schools counselors, we're charged with helping students find the path to their futures. They are tomorrow's makers, healers, advocates, nurturers, peacemakers, and thinkers. We take this charge very seriously. As the poet E.E. Cummings said, it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. We recognize this may be true now more than ever. As another school year draws to a close, we're proud of our work helping students as they become who they are meant to be. We're glad to have a chance to share our work with you this evening. Happy to take.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'll open the floor for questions, comments. Penny.
So your presentation is always one of my favorite ones of the year. And this time, I didn't know about the number of advisory boards and everything we were sitting on and how you're doing that. And I just want to commend your whole department. I think that's terrific. And to reach out and to be part of the process on both sides, I think really benefits you and benefits our students. And so thank you for making that a goal. Anyhow, I had a couple questions. One was I always want to make sure every single year that you're well funded and that you have enough money to go visit the colleges and universities that you want to see, including the ones overseas. I thought it was great that you went because I know a bunch of our students actually go over to Great Britain for their college experience. So I want to so if you have any requests for that, if you need any more money, I want you to come and tell us. And I also, this year, I wanted to make certain that you had enough counselors and that your ratio, because as I'm seeing it, you have more and more demand on your time. I think we're hearing how stressed out our students are. So each student might require a little bit more of your time to get where they are. And I'm thinking that your ratio around 150 students to one counselor or something.
About 170.
170, and I'm
counseling,
wondering
yes.
whether or not, you don't have to discuss it today, but I'm wondering whether or not, maybe we need to get to 150. If we need to change that or look at that.
Mm-hmm. It's something we can discuss. I think we still are in line with our DIRG, perhaps a little bit lower, except for the department chair who has more students than anybody, but that's okay. Not complaining. But that is something we'll talk about. I think, yes, we are spread thin with, I think our families expect a lot, and we try very hard to meet the needs of all students. And our population is more and more diverse all the time with a wide range of needs, and we've done a pretty good job with that. So
Well, and I know we had, when we looked at this a long time ago, we were looking at the distant DERG, and we were a little bit out of sync with it then. But I actually think we ought to be on the leading edge here. And if the DERG is not where they ought to be, and we ought to be doing a better job, then I would like to know about that.
Okay.
Because I think all these things that you're doing to sell the amazing students that we have,
Yeah.
that it's really worth our investment in your department, and want to give you the resources to make sure you can do it as well as you.
Thank you. I think one thing that we brought up the last time, and we still maintain it's gotten even worse, is the demands of AP exams on our counselors to run that. We are up to 1,500 exams.
about.
Over, it takes them out of their, two people coordinate it. They are paid very little for that, but they also, it takes away 3 months of their time that they're doing their regular job and managing the AP coordination of the exams. And I wish we would look at that a little more carefully in the future.
Well, I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. So we'll come back to it. And maybe
Something to
when we're
come back to.
maybe when we're setting our goals this summer.
It would be something, yes.
Go ahead, Brendan, and then Julie.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm on an advisory board at my alma mater, which is Tulane, and I was at a meeting last year, and they were asking, does anyone have any ideas about how to get more boys into our classes? Because I think they're like 55 or 60%, girls. So is that something that's come up with colleges, and is that something that we're
It's always
trying
one
to
of their
address? Yeah.
agenda items overall, that particularly the smaller liberal arts colleges are looking, that's one of their big challenges, is to always try to maintain that balance. It's good for everyone to have a balance. And so that is something they struggle with. And we can look at that, but again, coming back to our kids, getting the boys to look at the smaller schools can sometimes be harder to do. And we often say, if there's a good sports team, that does help, to encourage kids to go. So.
55% girls. And she was like, well, I'm not going.
It's been a challenge for years. It's always been.
Julie?
Sure. So you mentioned that colleges, I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but if they're focusing or something about increasing diversity. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Sure. A diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of representation from all the states and all the countries. I think they are trying, and as I said, the underserved populations, they are reaching out more to those to make sure that they are promoting what they have to all students. So that's about what I mean about that. So,
Have you noticed any New Canaan students kind of get dinged for that? Because we are not a diverse town, and there is not a whole lot of race-based. I'm thinking
I know
about
what you're
race-based
saying.
admissions and family income-based admissions. Have you seen any New Canaan students kind of get dinged because of that?
I don't know that it's dinged. It's that they are competing against such a large network of institutional needs from institutions. So perhaps as compared to 50 years ago, there's less, that they are being, it's more competitive for our students to get in based on those.
Based on their race?
No, based on all the criteria that colleges, they need to meet, that they are including kids from all backgrounds.
Bill?
Can you talk a little bit more about financial aid night here and whether there's been an increase in interest and what participation looks like in that over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think when Lori and I started probably almost 20 years ago, that we held it in a small room in our offices and perhaps had 20 or 30 people there. The last couple times we've run it, it's been close to 200. And so And then on Zoom, we've held it on Zoom to offer even more opportunities for parents to take advantage of taking a look at it if they want it in more confidentiality that they're looking. And we focused it, changed the focus of it each year to make sure that there's an understanding that there's money to be had out there and what to do to apply and look at those opportunities. There, does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And my second question was just with regard to gap year. You had mentioned that earlier, and I'm just curious whether you've seen on the heels of COVID, and I feel like just the sort of recognition that a lot of boys, while they may have the grades and a lot of stuff ready to go to college, they're not quite all the way ready. And I'm just curious if you've seen sort of a peak in interest as far as kind of taking that gap year and kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, more and more we have seen that, where kids are feeling they're not ready for making that jump. I think post-pandemic, that's had a little bit to do with it in terms of maturity levels of some kids, that they're not sure what they want. The cost, again, parents aren't sure they want to pay for someone who isn't sure for what they want. And so I've had a number of kids ask about gap years, and we've sent them information on the gap year fairs that are in the area so they can take advantage of understanding what's available to them. Colleges like it too. They see that kids are being more purposeful. They've gained a year of maturity, and in most cases they're a better student on campus.
Can I ask one quick follow-up to that? So have we seen, a few New Canaan kids starting to do that?
Yeah.
And what are the results? Has that, has it changed where they would apply the following year, or, I guess if the sample size is probably too small to come to any solid conclusions, but
we do have, some kids don't decide to do it till after they've applied. They go through the whole application process and then decide at that time, I'm going to take a year off, and ask to be deferred for a year from the college they were accepted to. That's more common now than ever before, where they then decide they have it in place. Some colleges offer students admissions a year from now, and say take a gap year or take courses. So we're seeing more colleges offer that. We will guarantee your admission in a year. We just can't give you a spot now. So in the admissions process that has happened, and then before the admissions process even starts, many kids are thinking about it. What we do is encourage them to go through the whole research process of looking at colleges and opportunities. Don't decide till senior year, and because they change so often from the time they start this in junior year till the end of senior year.
Erica?
I was wondering if you could talk about alumni feedback a little bit. I have observed the alumni feedback sessions in December, but just for this larger group to talk a little bit about what our alumni say when they come back, both about their high school years and about the college process that they had just gone through.
Generally, the kids have been very positive. They feel that they're they're ready for college. They get to college and feel that they're in good shape academically. They know how to write a good paper. They know the math classes aren't too daunting for them. They feel that it's good. I think every year we ask them what we haven't seen or what we could do more of, and they come up with ideas for courses. And things. I think usually I hear mostly they would like to learn about Excel, and because they need it in everything they study, and to be really fluent in that would help them. I know when they started talking about increasing our computer science courses, that we did go forward and really did a good job of expanding what we do around computer science courses for kids, because they were seeing the need for that as well. Well, you all were there. What else did we learn? I'm sorry? Roommates. Oh, yeah, roommates are tough. Having roommates, yes. And all the ways they learn things, spending money, that they suddenly my daughter spent all her spending money in October of her freshman year. So we had to learn, they had a lot of things to learn.
They always don't, they remind the rising seniors don't stress. It's gonna work out. They just have such positive feedback for the students who are coming up, especially because they've just gotten out of that really stressful point, and so they can say, like, don't stress, enjoy the process, you're gonna end up somewhere. So I think they're
You want to just speak to how that day is structured? Because again, to Erica's point, I don't think everyone.
Sure.
is necessarily
So
aware.
at the beginning of the morning, we invite a number of kids to speak with the Board of Ed to talk about many of these factors. Sue Carroll runs it for us with her pointed questions about how things are. And so they get some feedback directly from the students. And then right after that, the larger group, our group of seniors, will meet with a panel of the freshmen returning, and we moderate a conversation between those seniors, usually about 15 or 20 of the seniors coming back to talk with students about what to think about and what to consider in moving on to college.
I also had a question about Naviance. You describe a part of the process where there's a bit of like a matching of the students' capabilities to what we've seen from previous applicants. And I'm wondering how that is or possibly could be helping with the groupings that we're seeing where, you know, so many students go towards one or two schools. And it seems like Naviance is a tool that can be useful in trying to say, broaden your horizons, here are other schools. I'm just wondering, not knowing Naviance myself, how that does or how that works right now.
In terms of developing their college lists?
And helping them broaden their college
Oh, and
list.
helping them broaden their list. Well, it's actually become an issue with Naviance because it's the same lists for every kid. Because the kids have been applying to similar schools every year, they're giving, you know, there's a great feature in Naviance called, if you applied to this school, here are the overlaps that you could also consider. And it brings up what other kids have applied to. Well, it's become the same list for everyone. So now we're really relying on counselors to come up with those alternative schools. And we use Naviance, but we always bank it with what we know to be other ideas for schools. And again, we use each other to work on those lists with kids.
And then just one question. You mentioned that colleges are starting to talk about AI and how that's going to impact the application process. Is there anything you can, like, that you've heard so far that you can share with us? Because that is a very big topic. It is going to have a huge impact. And I'm just wondering what they're saying so far.
So I had a conversation with one Ivy League, and he said they denied 6,000 kids because it wasn't really AI, it sort of was. They were using a template of one of our popular essay writing platforms, and the kids were just filling in words. Like the template was how to write one of their supplemental essays, and they were just, you know, I aspire to be fill in the blank. and then so it was so obvious that 6,000 of them had the same essay that they just denied everyone. But then they're also they are asking us what our policy is, that they will reflect their policies based on what schools are doing. So if our school, if we say our policy is such and such regarding AI, which we are talking about this summer, what that is going to be, I have heard, then they will reflect back the same, much in the same way. If we offer APs, they want to know how many offers I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here. They want to know how, like in our profile, how many APs that you offer, how many APs do kids take. They want to, so in the same way, they want to know what our policy is going to be about that. So that's about where we are right now. We're going into our junior classes this week to talk about Common App and the essay writing that they're going to do over the summer, and bring that up to say, don't use Chat GPT. They are already developing tools. Each college is really working hard to develop tools around understanding if it's your own work or not, which is a big question as to what is your work. Penny?
I was just wondering if we track the number of students who transfer college during their career and the reasons why, sort of a barometer of how good we are at getting a match at work.
We do. I don't have the numbers with me tonight.
But we do ask as kids ask for transcripts to be sent to other schools. We ask them why they are thinking about transferring. Is it social? Is it location? Is it financial? So we are gathering that information. We have been gathering every year. I just haven't looked at it for this year to see, but it is increasing. And we also see a number of kids who think about one college, they didn't get into their top college, but they got into a school that they plan to attend for a year and transfer. So it's a two-step process for them now.
Julie?
I got a text from somebody last week that said they had been doing alumni interviews for their college for quite some time, and they got an email just last week saying the college was no longer doing alumni interviews. Is that something you're seeing?
No, I haven't seen that, so that's interesting. They have been still using them, as far as I know, and it hasn't really changed, but
alum interviews. But since not every kid can interview, it can't be a huge part of the process.
If you want, I can go back and see what the college was.
sure. Great, good follow-up.
I have a couple questions. I think they're quick, but I also just wanted to make a comment on the college alumni that we host in December. One of the themes that has stood out to me year after year, and I think I've been to 4 or 5 of them, was the writing preparation. And you mentioned it, but I just wanted to highlight, it really stands out to me as something that we hear every year, where the kids say, in history and the English classes, in business writing, I mean, any of those classes, that they really feel that that's a strength they bring with them when compared to their peers on these campuses. So I just want to say kudos to all of the teachers and faculty who support that process, because I think it is consistently something that's, impressive in my mind. And then a couple questions. Are you seeing any trends? I know the large universities, in many cases, kids can apply to the specific college, but do you see trends where schools in general are looking more for kids to declare their interest or their major? Is that changing at all?
I think the point is they want to understand where the student is going to fit in their overall campus. So certainly certain schools, engineering, nursing, that they will have to declare right away. Because they get started right away. But otherwise, they'll say undeclared is fine, but they'd like to know an area of interest. So a very broad area of interest to get a sense of where students go. They have not spelled that out exactly, though, but they will say in the application, when a student is saying they have an interest in business, what have they done in high school, or were they working? What is showing that they have that interest, that they've been developing that interest at all, and that there's some alignment between what they were doing in high school and where they're going with that.
Okay. And then a question on Naviance. I know we talked about it last year, and I believe they were working on some upgrades and updates. Do you think there's on the horizon any opportunity to see the test optional data to be able to compare? Is that coming or available?
Yes, they are introducing that for this year, at the end of this year. They're putting the data in for score optional.
And is that based on the data that you have? Is that self-reported from the students in terms of their scores, or
No, I think that will be
just in their student profile?
I think
Combination.
it's a combination.
All of our seniors do a senior exit survey on Naviance, and we ask them to go through each school that they applied. And this year is really exciting. For each school, they could say, did I send my scores or did they not? Because it's individual by school, right, what the average is. So they may send to a handful and vice versa. So we'll be able to track that data. And we're also hoping, fingers crossed, that Naviance will report that nationwide. And Naviance is doing a whole revamp this summer. So we'll have more information once they do their revamp.
Yeah.
And redesigning the interface and always making it a little bit more user-friendly.
We'll see how it's going.
Work
We
in
are
progress.
also looking at alternative programs to Naviance, because I think the kids don't engage with it as well as we'd like them to. So we are exploring some other options at this point. It's going to be our research next year.
Okay.
Other options.
I just briefly want to say thank you. You know, we've asked you to come and really focus on the college process. And sitting here listening to all of what you do, it really is very complete and comprehensive. But I'm also struck by the fact that that is not all of what you do. It's a slice of what you do and a very, very important one. But you're also supporting students and families and even staff at times all throughout their 4 years in a developmentally appropriate way as they go through the school. So thank you for really focusing on this important slice of your work, but it's also part of the whole system of our developmental guidance program that we have here at the high school. And certainly, with the connection between SACS as well and the counselors there as the students come up from 8th grade and make that transition. So it is certainly a lot and certainly important for all of us. I also just briefly want to say you mentioned the PFA meetings as just one of the means of communication, but you could have similarly put a calendar out as you did with the college reps with all of the presentations that you do with our parents through the PFA all throughout the course of the year, whether again it's acclimating students to the high school or preparing them for that transition afterwards. So all of what you do makes such a difference in the lives of our kids and our families, and just wanted to say thank you for focusing on this piece, and wanted to make sure everyone was clear that it's a piece and there's quite even more that goes on each and every day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Good night. Okay, next we have an update on the Board of Education's move to 220 Elm.
So with the board's indulgence, I'll just stay here and just speak briefly because it's really very informal. Just wanted to give a brief update, and I felt like I've been speaking about this so much, I just wanted to show a couple of pictures. So, and thanks to Michelle Ahmed, who went over today and took some pictures, which I took a look at and felt like while they were very helpful to see, it was a little bit difficult to understand. So I also took a quick video this afternoon, which I'll show you tonight just to get a picture of it all. So as you know, we have been working for what seems like a very long time on preparing for and beginning to execute this move. This is the first floor of 220 Elm that was purchased by the town. We've talked about it for a while, and we're moving over all of what's in 39 Locust Ave to that first floor. So we have our launch program alternative and the Board of Education offices. This is just the front of the building. The side entrances here, you see the two of them on the slide. Those are the student entrances. And just the point there is that they are separate and apart from where the public will be coming and going and from where the employees will be coming and going. You see the double doors on the left there are for the alternative program as you walk in. And then on the right is for our launch program. And they have a little area there where we even consider maybe tables and a little cafe. And you'll see that a little bit more as we go into the video. Out the back, this is where I anticipate the staff will be coming and going. That's overlooking the train station in the back and the lumberyard lot that's back there. And we're working through parking and the details around all of that. And that's sort of the view from the back of the building, which is through the windows of the classroom where the alternative space is and some of the offices along the back. The space looks like this. So looks like a space under construction and to be expected, but it really has come quite a long way in the last couple of weeks. The team is starting at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning in order to finish up around 2 to minimize the noise and disruption for any tenants that are upstairs. So they've really worked hard to try to be flexible with noise to accommodate our neighbors upstairs. This, for instance, is an area where the executive assistants and the human resources quads are going to go. So we have 3 sort of quad areas. One is for the executive assistants, one is for the human resources, and then the third is for the finance department, where you have four sort of systems furnitures that work together as a cube. It's not dissimilar to what we have now, but it's being redesigned so that it specifically fits into the space as tightly and appropriately as it can. As you take a look at the offices, you see for the most part there's a window in each one. One of the concerns, of course, when you have 12 people working interior to the building, natural light and the field space. So we have worked with the architect, and Bill Ostman's been a great partner with all of this, to have glass walls along the hallway side of the offices, which should allow the natural light to spill out and feel more open for the folks that are working interior to the room. I know all of this is so out of context, it's difficult, so if you'll humor me for a moment, we'll try the video and see if it works. Oh. It should. I just have to do something with the sound. Or I can just narrate it, which I do on the video anyway. No music. Okay. If you can see that. So this is the entrance in from the student side. Here, why don't I just cheat for the downtown campus. Enter in. There's a meeting room here. Straight on here. All right. Restrooms going in. I'll do it this way. So on the student side, we walked in through the alternative program. There are restrooms there for the students. And then here, walking through the doorway, this is the shared instructional kitchen. And that's going to be shared by both programs, as we've talked about. So there's entryways in from either side, as you can see. The one window there, there'll be a center island that will have the cooktop where students can see the demonstration, and we can teach through that. There'll be a fridge, there'll be the washer and dryer. And now we're going into the launch space, and those are the double doors that they'll be coming in from. And this is the front conference room in the space, and this conference room looks out to Elm. So across the street there is Walter Stewart's, and that'll be a secondary conference room we'll be able to use off hours. This is the entry for the students in launch. And then going past that is that's a bathroom space there, because they also will have a separate bathroom that also has space for them to store personal hygiene materials, because part of the instruction we'll be doing will be helping them to understand how that works. And this is the main program area for them, again, with a fair amount of natural light coming in through the windows in the front of the building that overlook Elm. So as we go through, now where this is the instructional kitchen, and then we're going back to the alternative side. Come on. As we go through. Now in the alternative side, now we're over here. This is, in the back, is a conference workspace where the students will be. This will have glass front because there are no windows behind there. There will be another one opposite. And now we're going into the classroom space on the student side. And by eliminating the hallway that was there, we're able to pick up a little bit more space for the classroom. So it is a good sized space for those students where they can be able to group and use different instructional strategies. Now, I just walked through that room, but this wall will be completed all the way across. You won't be able to go from one side to the other as that just did, because then we get into the pantry. Now we're in the central office side of the building. So that was the 50%. Here's the other side. So these are the double doors, which overlook the train station and the lot. And as you come through, here we go. As we come through, I do expect most of us will be coming and going in the back that way. This will be the pantry where we'll have a countertop and sink and refrigerator and what have you. It's an area for folks to get away from their offices a little bit and have some lunch. The faculty restrooms are, not faculty, but the staff restrooms are there. Those were there. They're just being completely renovated. and we'll have our mailboxes right there. We walk out. Now, we've talked quite a bit about filing, and so we've worked hard to carve out a space for filing, and we're working closely with our partners around this. As you walk down this hallway, offices are on the left, and then there'll be a back file room, which is this here, which is central in the space. It's closest to human resources, who have the greatest filing need, but everybody will have files back in there. So this space was specifically created for that purpose. It took a little bit away from the area on the other side, of course, but we needed something for some secure filing. As you go through, these are the offices around the outside of the building. And again, you see where the walls stop, but the glass will come out an additional couple of feet and be across. So the hallways will be about 4 feet wide, but the glass will make it feel a little bit wider, and the way the carpeting will be laid out. Coming around now towards the front, and again, different offices, as you can see. That's Human Resources Director. That'll be a Director of Finance and Operations. And I'm almost done, I promise. That'll be the door there, once it's replaced, that the public will be using when they come into the space for registration or for meetings, for any other purpose. So this is the door right off the front door, which faces Elm. Coming in, there'll be a reception area here. Our district registrar will be seated there. Our data manager will be right here in the front. That'll be his office. And then right outside of his office will be other member of the data team, and Michelle Schneider will be right outside there too. So we're making some groupings that are logical so folks can support each other in that work as well. And then the very last piece here as we go in is the very front of, well, this is where the copy room will be, and then past that is the wellness room, which is a small little room with a chair and a fridge. And then as we come out here, this is the boardroom, which is the new conference room, the former CEO's office. And it is, again, in the front of the building overlooking Walter Stewart's. And that's where we'll be able to hold larger meetings, similar to the boardroom that we have now. We anticipate it being about the same size. And you can see the view out the window with natural light, etc. So I can stop it here. Thank you for humoring me. I think the most important point is we have sort of transformed this space now from what it was, which was really, as you know, it was a bank space for less than a dozen folks generally who worked there, to a space that we anticipate being able to have about our 28 or so folks in central office working on one side, and then the students working the other. And the way we've shared some of the resources in the space and tried to be creative with what's available, we're optimistic it's all going to come together well. So they're going to continue doing the work. The move-in plan for us now is the first couple of weeks in August. And the first thing we're going to do is move in our students and get that all set up, just in case there's any kind of delay. We don't expect one, but we want to make sure that it's ready for our students on the first day of school. This way they can start there, and maybe even we do a little bit of early transition with our launch students, getting them there a little bit even prior. And then we'll move over the offices as well in the second and third week of August is the plan. We've still got to work out some of the details. Of course, it's some of the busiest time for our finance department as they're closing out the year and closing out the books. So we will make that transition as seamless as we can. We have contracted with Mover, and Bill Ostman's been a great help with that and a great partner. So we've been working with a Mover to figure out what's going to go. And then we're also going to be looking at a service to try to digitize some files as well and get on some kind of a longer term plan to take some of the old files that we have and look to have those digitized and, if needed, housed somewhere so that it's off-site and convenient and accessible for folks. But our tech department's been a part of it. There's been some questions about cameras and security and locks, so they'll be using the same system that we use throughout the buildings. So the same key card that works now at central office in the buildings will be working there. We also have cameras on each of the doors, especially the student side. That will be streaming into the schools so that the campus monitors can pick that up as well. And of course, we're very centrally located where we are, right there. And one of the many advantages to co-locating the administrative offices with the student programs is that we're all on site when at least one of us is always around. To be able to help with any disruption or any issue that comes up. And I know that right now, Bill and Jill are sort of the first lines of defense because they're all right on that second floor. So now Al being on the same floor make that easier for all of us too.
Questions, comments? What about the, how's the parking? Is that still being worked out, or?
Yes, that's
Okay.
still being worked out. We did send over the information to Stacy, who's the parking supervisor there, and so this week is our plan to get that all nailed down. There are some challenges. I mean, we have the lot behind us, so that's very helpful. We have half of the lot that's right next to the building, so we're talking about using those for visitors and maybe for if we have any employees that need it for mobility reasons or anything like that. So maybe hold one or two. We did convert one of the spaces over to a second handicap, or a van handicap for our launch students, so that we make sure that both two vans can get in there at once, and the drop off in the morning and pick up. So the fine details are being worked out, especially for visitors. We have quite a few meetings there. We'll have folks from the buildings come over. We have parents come over. We have board members come over. Everybody, lots of things happening there. So just figuring out what's the best way to do it. I do believe they stopped checking a lot at either 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At a certain point of the day, anyone can park in the lumberyard lot and they don't check. And I don't know if that's public, but I guess it is now. Yeah. So any meetings after that, there's ample parking. But they do check throughout the day.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the update. Great. Statement of accounts, Mr. O'Keefe.
Okay, message really isn't that much different from the last couple of months. I'll just quickly go through some of the numbers through April. So year-to-date April, our spending is $73.8 million, which is 74.5% attainment of our full year 23 budget of 99.1. We have an additional 21.4 encumbered, which is fairly comparable to about a year ago. We had 20.1 a year ago. The remaining unencumbered balance is 3.9, which is fairly consistent again with prior year. When we look at the year-to-date attainment of 74.5% and compare it to the prior year, we see that we're overall up versus last year from 74.5 up from 73.23, which would indicate initially that we are spending at a faster pace, but not the case. As we've been doing the last couple of months, we have looked at the various accounts that are driving this, and it's primarily in employee benefits, which is attributable to the fact that at year end last year, we had 3 transfers totaling $1.6 million. So we have to normalize for that to get a apples and apples comparison for the month of April. And once we do that, we're spot on an attainment basis for not only employee benefits, but overall as well. If you normalize for the 3 transfers, we come in exactly at 74.5 last year, normalized, versus our current year of 74.5. So we're spot on. It's an indicator we're on track to making our budget. So that's kind of the update.
Questions? Looks good, thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Announcements and future business. Dr. Lutzy.
Sure. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight, June 5th. At that meeting, we will have a presentation from Heather Biancheri around the senior internship. If you have seen New Canaan High School students all over town this last week, they're not skipping. It's legit. There are interns. They're doing great work. If you see them, ask them how it's going. I have an intern this year, Praja, many of you may know him, actually came to the Tri-State Consortium spring meeting this afternoon with Dr. Carenti, Mr. Tesber, and I, and was part of that. So our interns are all over, and so Heather's going to give us a quick update on the numbers and some of what they're doing. And of course, the board is invited to the end of the year celebration for the interns as well. Well, I'm sure she'll talk about that a little bit. It's also the night that we honor our retarees, and we've got a number of retirees this year who are certainly worthy of more recognition than a night could give. And then our CABE Student Leadership Award winners as well. We have a boy and a girl from the high school who are picked each year. We do start that meeting a little bit early, informally. The meeting will still start at 7, but the board's invited to join the honorees for a little bit of ice cream prior to the meeting. The kids generally are here with their parents, and the faculty retiring faculty will sometimes come with their families, so it's a nice night. So certainly welcome to come. And I just learned over the weekend of a donation from West that will be brought to the board for approval around some beautification of the front of the building and some work they'd like to do there, which I think will be wonderful. And I just, as an announcement, just want to say thank you on behalf of the students and the staff, the faculty, the parents, the community, everybody, say thank you to the board. It's somebody said to me today as we were talking that there are 17 school days left. Hard to believe where we are in the school year already. But before you know it, it'll be Memorial Day on Monday, and hopefully as many board members as can will be marching with us, and we'll have our banner ready to go. And one more, it's our last Board of Education meeting on the 5th prior to the end of the school year. So looking forward to that, but just want to say thank you. Thank you for all of what you've done to help make this a great year. I think when we started the year, we said it felt like one of the best starts we've ever had, and I think that positive momentum has really propelled us all through the year. So thank you for your service, for your volunteerism, for your commitment to our schools and kids. Really makes a difference.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, well, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Penny? Julie, all in favor? All right, good night, everyone. Thank you.